Good morning and happy Monday to ELL Writing. I hope this finds you all well and ready to start off our first week of a more formal learning environment where we're going to be putting out assignments and instructions this week. So, on Mondays, my goal is to put out some kind of a lecture video talking about a writing topic. We previously, before spring break, were talking about the different kinds of paragraphs. We had spent time looking at narrative paragraphs and descriptive paragraphs, and we were intending to move on to expository paragraphs when we came back from the break. So that's where we find ourselves today. I'm going to give a brief introduction to expository paragraphs, and we're going to look specifically at informative paragraphs, which are a kind or a form of expository paragraph this week. So everything that we're doing this week is going to be built around this specific writing topic. So, expository paragraphs. An expository paragraph informs a reader on a subject. It provides information, and it's found in textbooks and things that you might read for school. So, for example, in your science class, you definitely have read expository paragraphs. They explain how a process works, understanding the life cycle of a frog, or how to do a specific lab. The same things are in your shop classes, in your art classes, in your foods classes. They're explaining the steps that you take to be able to complete something. So they not only are informational, but they're also instructional. So you would read them when you're trying to fix something or repair something or build something for the first time. So like I said, there are many different kinds of paragraphs, but they all provide information. So the three main types that we are going to be looking at in ELL writing are informative, cause and effect, and compare and contrast paragraphs. So I'm going to talk generally about all three types this week, but we're going to hone in specifically on informative paragraphs when we do our own practice writing. So no matter what the form an expository paragraph takes, the writer focuses on presenting factual information and being objective. They are not putting their own opinions on the information that they're talking about. They're simply stating the facts or the steps or the instructions. Because of this objectivity, the writer normally writes in a third person point of view. So the first example of a paragraph that we're going to look at is the informative paragraph. Now, this type of paragraph might explain a process or describe a category or provide a long definition of something that is relatively complicated. So a really good contemporary example of this right now would be any kind of reading that you do around understanding what the COVID-19 virus is. It's something that's complicated. It's providing information. It's explaining it to you, right? There's not an opinion piece on it. It's just facts about COVID-19. Even more so, how to keep yourself healthy and safe around COVID-19. That's informational. That's informative. That would be an example of an informative paragraph. We're going to look specifically at an example a little bit later on in our discussion. The second kind of expository paragraph that we are going to look at briefly today, but in more depth next week, is a compare and contrast paragraphs. So this compares two things to each other. The differences can be large, they can be small. It really depends on what the goal of the writer is. But an example of this could be comparing, again, to go back to our COVID example, comparing COVID-19 to the flu, right? You could be comparing symptoms of both of these viruses, right? You could be saying there's similarities in this way, there's differences in this way. You know, each of these share similar characteristics or different characteristics or different symptoms. You can also use this when you're talking about characters in a book, right? That would be very appropriate example for English, right? Comparing two different characters, comparing even books overall, right? Or movies or novels or television shows, anything, whenever we're comparing two different things. So the third and final form of expository paragraphs that we are going to look at later this month is cause and effect paragraphs. Now, a cause and effect paragraph explains how an action of one thing, or the cause, can produce a result or an effect. So, for example, if I had invested money in Apple, I would be making more money now. If I had studied for my social studies test, I would have gotten a better mark. So how one This is a little bit more of a complicated form of paragraph, and by looking at examples, we're going to come to better understand it. So bear with that short definition of it, and when we get to cause and effect paragraphs, we'll talk more about specific examples. About an actual example of an expository paragraph, more specifically, an informative paragraph. And again, just to refresh, an informative paragraph is a paragraph that explains a process, describes a category, or provides a long definition of something that might otherwise be complicated. So this is an example that explains how Canada is a bilingual country. So English is the language spoken throughout most of Canada, but in Quebec, the most populated province, and in areas near Quebec, French is the first language. Because of this, Canadians recognize French and English as official languages that are used in business and government. Many people are bilingual and easily go from French to English and vice versa when speaking with tourists. The farther west you go, the more English you'll hear, but it is common to meet people throughout the country who are familiar with both languages. So what we already know from paragraph writing about paragraph structure is that our first part of our paragraph, English is the language spoken throughout most of Canada, but in Quebec, the most populated province, and in areas near Quebec, French is the first language, is our topic sentence or our introductory sentence. Following that, we have, because this is informative, we know we are sharing facts. We have a fact here. Because of this, Canadians recognize French and English as official languages that are used in business and government. That's one fact. We're going to do facts in different colors here. Many people are bilingual and easily go from French to English and vice versa when speaking to tourists. That's two facts. The farther west you go, the more English you'll hear is a third fact. And then we have a concluding sentence. So we're going to choose a different color. It is common to meet people throughout the country who are familiar with both languages. So our structure here is staying similar to the structure of other paragraphs that we've seen. A topic sentence, a concluding sentence, and then 3 points that make up the middle of our paragraph. So to make this easier on yourselves, we do have an outline that I'm going to be providing you with for when you do your practice writing in class with your own topic on Wednesday. This is the informative paragraph template. So brainstorming your introductory sentence that introduces the topic using a clear and focused topic sentence, the facts that make up the body of your paragraph, and then your concluding sentence. Now, your concluding sentence can also have that wrap up that extends to the world, and your introductory sentence can also have a hook, or should also have a hook, in all truth. However, in the past, when we've been writing something like a narrative or a descriptive paragraph, we've been using maybe some more objective language, like appealing to emotion or asking a question. But remembering that expository paragraphs are informational and factual, something like a fact, like 25% of Canadians are bilingual or something like that, would be more appropriate to be a hook, right? Rather than, do you speak English and French? Okay, so those are things to be keeping in mind. So for today, I think we're good. We've had our lecture on expository paragraphs, specifically looking at informative paragraphs. Check back in for tomorrow. We're going to be looking at some more examples of informative paragraphs in writing. And then on Wednesday, you will have a topic to practice your own informative paragraph writing with, using this template, which will be attached. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon, and I will